Friends, it's time to get started. I'm Jan Hemming. I'm the chair of the Hillcrest Neighborhood Council. It's our February 8th, 2024 meeting. And just wanted to thank all of you for coming out on a winter day. I just have a couple of announcements. I'm not sure if our first guest is here or not, or online. Suzanne, are you online? Have you unmuted? Maybe I need to unmute some people just to make sure. I'm gonna let them unmute themselves. But I don't see her. We may have to flip. We have to flip our agenda. Are you all nimble and ready to just pounce and give your reports? Okay, we can do that. A couple of really big things that are coming up on February 20th. Very important vote. Oh, here she is. Okay, we're gonna greet you with applause. Yeah. Good to see you, Suzanne. Just a couple of quick announcements, and then we're gonna get to Suzanne Harrison, who's just joined us. Thank you so much. Very important vote. February 20th with the city council on the land deal between the University of Utah and the city in Sunnyside Park. And there was a briefing, and I think Dan's going to probably get into it maybe in more detail when he has a chance to speak to us. He can add some more flavor to that. Had a very important also presentation before the city council on the local historic district, the Laird Heights local historic district. We thought we had a great presentation that day from Becky Woods. I thought her tone and her thoughtfulness and her sincerity came through. I thought it was very well done. Again, Dan can speak to that when he presents. But there's going to be a public hearing on March the 5th. And then there's going to be a vote tentative. This is all tentative on the schedule, March 19th. I think I got those dates right. Please keep that on your radar screen. And I am so excited to introduce now Suzanne Harrison from the Salt Lake County Commission. I've known Suzanne for a number of years. Honestly, she is the epitome, in my opinion, of a tireless public servant. This is a positive comment that I'm about to make, that you are like an ever-ready bunny. I mean, she is everywhere. I get her weekly newsletters, and she's just everywhere. She's at schools, she's up at the state capitol, she's meeting with groups that have influence everywhere, and she's working very hard on behalf of our county, which affects our city because the city's in the county. So I think it's great that we have someone like Suzanne Harrison representing us. And there's so many things that we care about that are going on between Parley's Canyon, the trails, Steiner and the Olympics, the new mental health facility that's now in Sandy in the county. So there's so much to talk about, but the floor is yours, Suzanne. We're going to let this run till about 7 o'clock. If you need a little bit more, we can kind of squeeze things around. This is where you're supposed to stand so that the people, yeah, good to see you. It's so great to have you here. And we'll turn the time over to Suzanne.
I get to give Jan a hug because I've known her since I don't even know, family friend. So
Yeah, you were right.
Yeah, it's really great. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here.
Thank you.
I'm an extreme close up. Sorry, folks, you get the up my nose view. Thank you so much for inviting me to the Yale-Crest Community Council. I think our community councils are so important. We have some throughout the county, but certainly Salt Lake has by far the most. Thank you, council member, for being here. If I say something wrong, please just interject, because this is your neck of the woods. So It's just an honor to be here. Thank you to all of you for your service and involvement, and thank you to all of you who helped me be able to serve in this capacity. I am one of the 3 at-large members of the Salt Lake County Council. I was elected in 2022. Prior to that, I served for 4 years in the state legislature representing Sandy and Draper in the Utah House. There was some aggressive redistricting, and I wanted to continue serving, and this was the best way to have a broad impact in our community. And I've been so honored to be at the county working on vital things like mental health services. How do we regionally work on these tough issues of air quality, homelessness, all of these things that our state is struggling with, we deal with at the county in a regional way. Also in my day job, I'm a mom of 3 awesome kids, husband in the tech field, and in my day job, I work as a physician, anesthesiologist at Altaview and Riverton Hospital. So there's a lot going on, but I'm really honored to represent you in the county council. I also wanted to introduce you to Kelly Colopy. She is the new head of human services at Salt Lake County. She's been on the job how long, Kelly? 3 months, brand new, but she has a really deep history and knowledge in this space. So I am so grateful to you for coming too. So I wanted to hit on a couple of things that are on the county's radar, and then maybe turn it over to Kelly for a couple minutes. And then maybe I'll tag team with Dan on things that we interface on, and then a discussion. And this is very informal, like I am not a formal person. So if you have something to add as I'm talking, please chime in. Some of the things right now that we're dealing with are some of the terrible bills in the legislature. There's a few. We recently, this past week as a county council, I was really proud to say that we unanimously opposed, I think it was SB 172. SB 172 protection area revisions. This is a bill that paves the way for mining interests to expand and continue to usurp local land use authority and even private property rights of surrounding neighbors. I'm very glad that even though the county council is a 5-4 Republican to Democratic members, this was a unanimous opposition to this bill, because we recognize that this is something that Salt Lake County residents are concerned about. We took a strong stance in opposition to expansion of the mine in Parley's Canyon, which I'm sure you're on the same page as I am on that it doesn't make sense to have expanded mining operations in the most populated part of our state. It's terrible for our air quality, for our health, but also for quality of life. And I feel like it threatens our economic future as well. It just doesn't make sense. Certainly, there's places throughout the state that we can have these, mining resources being placed that make a lot more sense than in the most densely populated part of our state, next to, precious trails and the population and the health and air quality concerns with that. And a couple other things on our radar: water conservation. Salt Lake County has been really aggressive in trying to reduce its own water usage, as well as outreach to the community for educating folks on how to reduce their own water usage. We in 2021 reduced our water usage by 13%. In 2022, Parks and Rec led the way with reducing water usage by 21%. So we're doing our part in trying to lead out on that. And I think, the elephant in the room is we need to have a broader conversation in the state as well about water usage. We need more of that water to stay in streams and rivers, getting to the Great Salt Lake, because saving the Great Salt Lake is not only in our health interest, it's vital for our economic future as well. And I'm preaching to the choir here. But we need to continue to work together with local leaders and the state to have that be on the forefront, because talk is not enough. We need to be having serious conversations about, water allocation, how much we're, planting alfalfa, and all these types of conversations that are very, very difficult, but we need to have them as a state. And I'm committed to being at that table for having these tough conversations, and we'll continue to do our part at the county. Other major things the county's involved with: parks, trails, recreation, libraries. It's something I'm passionate about. I serve on the library board at the county, and I'm very, very proud that this year we passed an initiative led out by Mayor Jenny Wilson to eliminate late fees for children's materials. And the reason was, this was spearheaded as a pilot program over the summer. The reason was there has been some research showing that lower income families, when they have those fees build up, because kids lose books, like my house is an abyss. I don't know how many library books we lost over the years, but the families tend to avoid coming back to the library. And that's the last thing we want, is our kids not having access to books, especially how important a love of learning, a love of reading is for all of us. So I'm very, yeah, yes, that's a whole nother can of worms, but yes, I support everyone being able to read all the books they want. So yeah, that was something that we were able to make permanent for children's materials. I'm really proud of that. Obviously, if the material is lost or damaged, the family is responsible for paying for that. So it's not a, take the books forever. It's on late fees, which I think is a really important thing to help encourage reading and literacy. The other thing I'm really proud of this year, again, spearheaded by Mayor Jenny Wilson, is you guys may have heard of the My County Recs Pass. So every single county rec center in the whole area, including ice rinks, rock climbing walls, all of the rec centers will be free, completely free for our kids ages 5 through 18 starting this summer. It's a pilot program, so we need parental involvement to make sure there's, guardrails in place to keep everyone safe. All the rules are getting worked out in terms of age restrictions on things like weight rooms and swimming and all those sorts of things, because we want to make sure that safety is our first priority. But we feel very strongly that the county plays a role in helping our families be safe and healthy, and also helping families who financially may be struggling for safe and healthy entertainment for kids. And it's also so important, not just for our physical health, but for our kids' mental health as well. Hopefully more of them will put those phones down, go play some basketball or go to the pool, take that time together to connect with each other, human to human, not just on social media. So we're really proud of this initiative, and we hope you'll help spread the word that this is available to every child ages 5 through 18 with parental, guardian permission. And we're very proud of it. And it's a 1-year pilot, but I'm excited if it goes well to expand that. So those are some of the things in Parks and Rec. We just opened over 13 miles of trails out in Butterfield Canyon. If any of you are hikers or bikers, they're beautiful. I biked it this fall, and it's just already hosted a mountain bike race for any of you NICA mountain biking fans. There you go. They hosted a high school mountain biking race out there already with good success. There's plans for dozens and dozens more miles out there in phase 2. So very proud of that. There's trails throughout the county. We've got Parley's Trail just right around the corner here. So we're very proud of the efforts and investment in parks, trails, recreation, libraries, these types of things, senior centers, so forth. And then I just wanted to maybe have Kelly talk a little bit about some of the work being done with mental health and homelessness. This is something that's very important to me. I was just out last week with the annual point in time count. I don't know if any of you were able to help volunteer with that. It's such an important thing. If you haven't ever done it, I strongly recommend you volunteering for it next year. It's done across the country on a certain day in January, a couple days in January, where we have volunteers literally go out and talk to all of our unsheltered neighbors to make sure that they're counted, that we help connect them with resources. But the counting is actually vital for securing federal funding to improve services and help address this toughest of challenges. So I'm really happy and proud of the work that we're doing. Obviously, there's so much more work to be done. This collaboration with local cities, Salt Lake City's been a real leader on this work, and also with the state to try to collaborate to solve this challenges is top of my list of priorities. And I don't know, Kelly, if you want to take a couple of minutes and then we can open it up for a couple questions, and maybe Dan, if you want to chime in with anything. I should call you council member to concern. We're friends here, right? Informal.
So everybody, oh, I'm supposed to scoot over. Am I here? Am I good? All right.
She's incredible. We're so happy to have her.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've been here for 3 months, and so for all of you who aren't quite sure about what the Human Services Department does, we run aging and adult services. So there's 15 senior centers across Salt Lake Valley that are being run, as well as a lot of work maintaining and helping people who would otherwise maybe be in a nursing home or somewhere else, like remain at home with all kinds of levels of service and care. We do the Meals on Wheels and all those other kinds of programs. So that's one of the programs. Behavioral health services, so all the mental health and substance use services for the county. It is a completely contracted out service. There are more than 100 providers across the county that we support through our funding, through Medicaid funding. Includes residential, all levels of care, all different spaces, which I'll talk about a little bit more in reference to homeless services in a minute. And then I have to write down some of these. We have public health. So when you hear the Salt Lake Valley Health Department, Salt Lake County Health Department, that is also part of the Human Services Department.
I should add, we were very sad to say goodbye to our beloved Dr. Angela Dunn this week, who has
last day
done
is next
such an
week.
incredible job working and serving at both at the state and the county level. She is gonna be still in the neighborhood. She's doing her new position is with the CDC, so you'll still see her around, but that was a huge loss for us, so
It is a huge loss.
big shoes to fill.
We just posted the position yesterday. If you know of anyone who wants to be a public health director, send them our way. What's that? Send them to me.
Those are big
So,
shoes
They
to
are
fill.
big shoes to fill, but she has a fantastic, she's gonna be doing all kinds of really cool technology and data. She told me that she has 30 technology developers, like software developers working for her at the CDC to start to address some of the concerns you heard about CDC nationally. And she's coming from here, so that's pretty cool. So we do have public health and then youth services. So youth at risk and housing for youth who are homeless. And then we also have the pretrial and probation, criminal justice services. So the pretrial and probation work, indigent legal work, and our Utah State Extension Services. So that is the Human Services Department. So it has it goes from prior to birth until the end of life and providing all kinds of services along the way. And we're spending a ton of time really thinking about what does it look like for prevention. So we're thinking about homeless prevention, drug use prevention, violence prevention, all those things. It really starts young. And so when I'm thinking about the parks passes, the access to books at the libraries and everything, those are all things that we care about when we're talking about how are we creating systems to prevent things that are really, causing harm to individuals and others in the community. So that's the work overall, just in terms of homeless services. So I don't oversee homeless services, but I used to in my previous job. And so I came from the city of Long Beach, California, been there the last 10 years. And so basically, we did just have the point in time count. And what we are looking at right now is sort of through our system. So there's the point in time count, which is a 1 day, or I guess 2 day count. And that gives you a very specific number for that time frame. It doesn't capture everybody that comes through the system throughout the year. So over the past year, about 12,000 people have been connected some way or another through what we call the Homeless Management Information System. That means they've connected somehow to our services. And so, yes, Salt Lake. Right, who connected in some way, doesn't it just, so.
You're right, it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
And they do an incredible job, both in our cities, but also in the county of helping so many of those folks not stay in an unsheltered situation. You do really, it's just incredible the work that's being done.
So this winter, more than 600 beds have come on site. So because it's cold here and things, we want to make sure that people are safe. So we add about 600 sort of winter focused beds that are in place right now. And on top of that, we have what we call the Code Blue. So Code Blue is another 200 beds, which in fact they're calling Code Blue for tonight, which come up when it's below 15 degrees. Like they look at wind chill factor and a whole bunch of things. But when that goes, and those Code Blue sites are actually run primarily by volunteers. And so a whole lot of folks, they put out the call And they're going there. So we're providing a lot of different opportunities for people who are experiencing homelessness. We don't want people on the street. We really want to make sure that people are safe. And then we're also partnering with Salt Lake City. You know, a lot of the shelters are there, but also for people who are on the streets with a mental illness or a substance use disorder, we're really working to be able to provide more treatment, more capacity, more outreach, more connection to them through the behavioral health side. And so we are working on opening what we call new group homes, which are for people with severe mental illness. So they're, you know, they can be cared for with really high levels of care. We're looking at other opportunities for residential care and others. So we're paying a lot of attention to it. It takes time to bring these things up. It takes like capacity and space and buildings and those kinds of things to be able to do the work and staff to do the work. And as you've all heard, probably, is that workforce right now and anything to do with social services, social work, case managers, all that, it's just hard to find. You know, COVID hit everybody hard. And, you know, there's been a lot of trauma. And so we're really trying to be able to look at workforce pathways to be able to engage people. So that's where we are right now in the work. I'm happy to answer questions going forward, but you know, housing costs are up. And it's impacting our older adults too. We're finding a lot of seniors becoming homeless and starting to enter our system because fixed income does not go with increased rent and increased cost of living and others.
Can I chime in
Yes,
here
please
real quick?
do.
There is actually a site on Salt Lake County. I need to find the link, but it's like if you Google Salt Lake County assistance programs, there are links to so many things for people that are struggling, including links to property tax, circuit breaker relief, and also property tax relief for seniors. There have been some legislation passed in the last couple of years that I think so many people just don't know they may be eligible for some of both the assistance programs like the county's Meals on Wheels program, but also some tax relief, property tax relief. So anything you can do to help get the word out to some of our residents that may be struggling. Cost of living is something that so many are struggling with right now. And there are many programs available. I'll try and find that. I'll get that link and send it to you, Jen. I don't know if you guys have a newsletter or something, but.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, so if whatever questions you have, what's that?
Amen. Okay, for the record, in the legislature, I co-sponsored legislation to eliminate taxes on Social Security. I did vote for eliminating Social Security taxes for up to a certain income, but really it should be a much, much higher income than it is. Amen. Yes, I'm with you.
Questions? We've got these two brilliant people here. Let's ask
Well,
them.
actually, I would argue we have like more than a dozen. Yeah. You mean in regards to stopping gravel pits? Yeah. Yes, but I have sometimes found that what seems to make sense isn't necessarily what always happens in this state. So I will keep on doing everything I can, but you're spot on. It doesn't make sense to bring the world here and, you know, have things that are making our air dirtier or, you know, not addressing the crisis that is the Great Salt Lake more seriously.
You know where that is
I'm with
right
you.
now.
The gravel pit there, it's early. Yeah.
So.
Wait, are you talking about the bill or the lawsuit?
The bill.
Okay, go ahead.
The gravel bill, Senate Bill 172.
Right.
Was in committee last week, then it went back to rules. And the league, the Utah League's assistant town, I'm on the board. We had an alert go out, which means everybody, all their representatives, all their senators, and saying it's bad. And it is a bad bill because it does usurp, it overrides any local authority. It allows a mine. Think of there's mine and then there's the critical infrastructure material. and gravel is in both those, it's one of those categories. They could expand their operation, think of the, like, kind of,
Geneva, that's my neck of the woods, yeah.
well, they could expand those operations without anything. So it's really bad bill. It's back at rules. That is good, but as we talked with our lobbyists at the city level, that doesn't mean it's dead, because these bills can come back to life and they're. The legislation, we're already past hump day right now in legislation, but we probably haven't. This is the key item that we're closely watching. At the league level, that means across the state, not just the process.
Yeah, and thank you. Yeah.
It is a good, very good point, because we use that angle on other bills to say that, you know, the whole world's coming here in 10 years, and you are really right. Well, we want to see them help. Yeah, yeah.
Because I know they're already against this.
Well, so I personally reach out to them.
Well, that's my thing.
But it also, well, since I'm in Salt Lake City, right, I go out further the county, there's some others for in Davis County, there's some down in Utah County, so why send them a text? And, but see, from a league standpoint, the league is doing this, so there's league members throughout the state, and they're all contacting their own representatives. But we've had bills where representatives said, okay, enough, we're gonna vote no on this because I got 20 emails and texts from 20 different cities saying, so yes, we do that. So,
And thank you for your service in that capacity. It's so important. And the Utah Association of Counties also was great in taking a position in opposition to that bill. Because sometimes the 29 counties all don't agree politically, but every county recognized that they have land use authority that needs to be respected as well. So I was really glad that the counties.
Different state.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're just a minority in a state that is going in a direction that they don't want it to go. And if you want to advance Utah, I'm not making a negative state. I mean, I'm just so afraid of all these bills. And you look at committees and say, are you kidding me? No, there's no diversity. You can't have, this is crazy. We don't want to send 10 million people to you if you're gonna turn away half of them. So that's where we are. And it's very.
We need a little more
Can
kindness.
you want to touch on? So,
Well, I'd like to hear about anything cooking with Steiner and hockey, and is there anything that you can tell us? Because there's a lot about hockey in the state generally.
I should invite you up. I personally have nothing to do with hockey right now. But the legislature recently passed a resolution.
that's.
Yeah, and so as far as I know, the county is not engaging with that right now, but would
Yeah,
you
so-
just come up here, because, and this actually goes along with,
Yeah, wait.
Trying to be. Man,
Terrible. Yeah.
well, and I can be done like right now. The only thing I was gonna say about Steiner is that Salt Lake City and the county co-own it, so that's why I'm
Right.
like, this is.
Much. Thank you.
Well, it's like I said, it's joint. This is a joint thing, and so when there's joint input and ownership, you know, sometimes things take longer. But I also think it's important that we have partners and we work together on this, and it's an incredible facility. I got to come visit and have a tour of the ice rink, and And thanks to Nathan Chen, who helped
Yeah.
like fund a lot of those renovations too, so.
Is there anything more you want to say about homeless? I know, and Dan can when he gets.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Is that what that's one?
Just so,
it's a pretty good picture of
Yeah.
what.
There's more work ahead
there's more work.
at
ahead.
all levels of government, and I
Yeah.
think the county really plays an important role
Yes.
in regionally bringing people together.
County, the city.
Yeah, so, the governor has proposed nearly $200 million to address various pieces of homelessness. Right, so looking at workforce, they're looking at temporary shelters, they're looking at a whole host of things. And so, we are partnering, I meet with the state DHHS and with the Salt Lake City every Monday. And we are in those conversations together, really driving and thinking about what our coordinated response is and how we can leverage what each other are doing to be able to move all of that forward. So we are in conversation, and we really are trying to make sure that we're in partnership going forward.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you for all your work and leadership, and let's keep in touch. always.
Oh, so happy to have both of you here. Thanks again. We're going to get Detective Fallows. Can you pop up on our screen and join us? Great. Say a few words so we can hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh, he can't unmute himself.
You gotta unmute him.
Well, I unmuted him. Oh, sorry. Can you do that now?
Yep, there we go.
Okay, sorry.
No worries, no worries.
Detective Sam Fallows, and I don't know if you have an update about the Bonneville School hate crime situation, but we'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a couple things to go over. We'll just start with that. So you might have even seen a recent article in the news that talked about it. But essentially there is an update that our detectives were able to work with the schools and everything and investigate and came up with some suspect information. I believe they're screening the charges right now with the attorney's office for those crimes that they committed there at the school. So really that was just a community effort of everybody kind of coming together. The school working with the community and working with with our property crimes detectives who are phenomenal. Salt Lake City, so I don't know currently, because I know that our numbers are down quite significantly when it comes to like overall, but Salt Lake City traditionally has been one of the higher per capita property crimes in the country. And obviously we've worked hard to bring that number down, and it has come down over the last few years. But our property crimes detectives, they do a phenomenal job. So I just want to give a shout out to them and all their hard work with that case at the Bonneville Elementary. So does anybody have any questions? I may or may not be able to answer them depending, because it still is an active investigation. But any questions on the Bonneville before we move on?
You may not be able to hear the audience, so if you
Yeah,
have,
you'll just have to repeat it.
yeah, who has a question?
I just wanted to know what was the resolution? What's been done to diminish it recurring?
Did you hear that question?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not 100% sure what they're doing to mitigate it in the future. Like Bonneville Elementary specifically. I know as the police department, that day when it happened, obviously, and some of you might have been involved, but it was pretty cool to see the community come together. The parents, the police, everyone kind of came together and, supported the students. We had police officers there all day to kind of make everyone feel a little bit safer. And I'm sure that, they have camera systems, things like that. That's why we were able to work with them to develop suspect information. So they do have those things that are in place to help us. One of the hardest things is to try and mitigate the vandalism is somewhat difficult, just because, you have to, I guess, try and stay ahead of it. And a lot of times it's just such a random thing, like this happened at a random time. There wasn't an indication that it was going to happen. There was no like Facebook post or anything like that saying we're going to go to the school and vandalize it. As far as I know, anyway, there wasn't anything like that. So they do happen kind of randomly at times. Other times there's definitely precursors where we can stop them. So I appreciate this question because on that note, last year I got to go to a summit called the Eradicate Hate Summit. And one of the precursors is if you're seeing like a friend, a family member, who's kind of a middle-aged school, generally it's males. They can be as young as 11, but all the way up to like, 20s, mid-20s. If you're starting to see them act differently than they have before, they're starting to say things, anti-Semitic or, just, anti any of the protected classes. If you're starting to hear them say things that are like, that was kind of odd, reach out to someone. There's people you can reach out to online with links and websites that can help like talk to these youth and kind of educate them on the dangers of going down those paths and that type of thinking. Obviously, we want to try and interdict those thoughts and those pathways earlier on. It's a lot easier to dissuade, a younger kid than it is a 25-year-old. But it is interesting you bring that up on how we can prevent it. So if you are seeing something suspicious like that, or you see a Facebook post that's clearly like, hey, I'm gonna do this or that to a school, or I'm gonna, they better watch out. Even if it may not be necessarily criminal, we want to know about it as the police department. Even if it's just like, hey, I saw this, it's really suspicious. This is exactly what it said. I took a screenshot of it. That's always helpful. And give us a tip so we can document it at least. Those things can be very helpful for us to try and help prevent these types of things. So luckily this did not involve any assaults, things like that where it's person crimes. But obviously when something like this happens, it makes us all feel unsafe, especially the children, and that's just not acceptable, right? And so we want to do everything we can to mitigate that. And so, yeah, again, if you're seeing something suspicious, you see a Facebook post, maybe a family member is ranting about something that normally is not an issue for them, and all of a sudden you're like, that's really uncharacteristic. Like talk to them, talk about it, bring it to someone's attention, so we can try and intervene and help. So, good question there. I don't know if I have a perfect answer for it, but that I do appreciate you bringing it up to remind me about that. Any other questions on Bonneville Elementary?
That's.
Did you say no?
Any stats, detective, for Yellcrest or?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I wanted to give a quick update about our stats. So our website, Jan, the one that we went over in the meeting, so the crime stat website is now live. And so we had a meeting. With all of our community council chairs about the new website. So we have a new crime dashboard that's available on our website. If you go into resources, slcpd.com, go to resources, you can see our new crime dashboard, and it kind of looks like a CompStat type model, but you can filter it by community council, and that's where I'll be reporting on the crime stats for each of my neighborhoods. And so for Yellcrest, we're actually looking pretty good to start off 2024. So January we had two thefts reported to us for the month of January. So we're down from January 2023. We had eight property and violent offenses reported between the two. In January, we've only had 2 property offenses reported. So it might be a little bit of underreporting. So on that, if you're having something where your property's getting vandalized or stolen or something like that, as your community liaison, I appreciate you guys reporting that because it gives us a little more accurate statistics for the neighborhood. And that can kind of help me when I'm trying to drive resources, or if I'm trying to put up a police camera, that, you guys have seen those with like the flashing red and blue lights. When I get requests for those, the first thing I do is go check the crime stats in the area. Because to some degree, I do need to justify it because we have so few and we have so many places that want them. So, it's good when I can look at a neighborhood and say, hey, Yellcrest has had 17 thefts in a month, which is way uncharacteristic for them. Can we do a bike operation sting, or can we set up a police camera or something like that? So If you know, I know a lot of times we get on next door and we post like, oh, someone stole my bike or someone stole my lawn ornament or something like that. They're pretty insignificant sometimes, at times, right? It seems insignificant, but even if you can just go to our website and do an online report, it still counts as a statistic and helps me drive resources. So, other than that, those are pretty much the updates I have. Those are the crime stats for the month of January. And again, this can be found on our website, slcpd.com, and you can just go into the resources and click on the crime dashboard.
Thank you, Detective Fallis. We appreciate your service.
Of course. Is there any other questions, like just in general, that I can answer for anybody?
No hands went up.
Okay.
Okay, Dan, our city councilman Dan Dugan is up. And then he will be followed by Hannah. So I'll just let you guys tag team and just come up here and speak to us and stand in the right spot, Dan.
I know, there I am. Gotcha. So since Suzanne left off on the legislative side of the house, I'll start right there.
Okay.
So I'm part of the league, and there are a lobbying group for all like 250 cities and towns throughout the state. So they have a big job to try to balance all that league thing. That when we have a league action alert, that means the entire league is opposed to that bill. So that's a big deal. And so in this case, the gravel bill, the league did that, and they sent out an action alert to all the board members and others and say, hey, you got to make these calls. And we do that. And then we do the same thing with our city council. So we have, I'm the league city member on the board. And then we have two other members that get to vote as far as the general committee there. So there's a lot of stuff going on the league side house. There's energy bills, there's housing bills, there's homeless bills. And on the homeless side, that's the big deal right now. As it was mentioned earlier, $109 million the governor requested for homelessness funding. And it's a lot. Protective public safety is part of it, preventative, mental health, housing, a lot of variables there that go in this $190 million package. And each one has a different dollar amount. The House leadership is showing signs that they don't have the funding for it. They have funding for a lot of other things, they just don't have funding for this. They have funding for a tax cut, but they don't have funding for this. Almost about the same amount of money. But they also have some other issues that we as a city and as a league are fighting hard for, because homelessness now, our efforts as a city and the county has grown from just being a Salt Lake City issue and a Salt Lake County issue to a statewide issue. And so people are realizing that we need everyone's help. More homeless resource centers are going across the board. So we need the help. We're fighting hard for that because, as it was mentioned also, we had over 600 beds were introduced into the system for the winter. Those beds go out of the system, I think right around May 1st, and we won't have a place for them. The Sandy place will have beds. That's not counted. That's counted in it, but they'll be there. That's 165 beds. The micro units isn't counted at 600. That's going to go to the state if the funding comes about. The 50 here, they're going to take it over. I think it's right around May 1st, and it's going to go up to 100 beds. They're coordinating that. The other side, Village, that's separately. Also, that's private nonprofit. But there's other things that we need to pay for. The mental health side of the house is vitally important. The sequence intercept model, we're talking about the lowest kids, making sure that incarcerated come out of jail or prison, and they have a place to go to with a person to support them. And all that requires also social workers and funding for the staffing. Because yeah, we can have all the beds we want, but if you don't have the staffing, we're not going to get there. So this is a big issue. The governor's behind it. The House of Reps is not behind it right now. So we're fighting hard on that one. And so all the winter overflow shelters, those beds, they're full every night. The code blue beds, we didn't fill all those code blue beds the last time when we had a long spell. Not all the code blue beds filled up, which is good. But the winter overflow side of the house is full every night. And so come May 1st, those people won't have a place to stay. And that's what we're trying to find. We're trying to get those people safe so we don't have to go have this recurring winter overflow problem. We want to have it on a permanent basis so that they don't have to have this cycle of housing and not housing. So that's what we're doing on the legislative side. There's a school safety bill for SROs and guardians that's got some troubling because it puts an SRO in each school. That has a fiscal impact on all cities. It also has an impact on the police department, on how you, and the county, everybody, because unified, I mean, we all have to take part of that. It's also concerning because it, an SRO, you give it to a guardian, a weapon to a guardian who's not really a police officer, who's not a sworn officer, in a school with a weapon. And there's a lot of concerns that the cities have on that one too. And there's a host of them. Legislative side of the house, we're working, I meet twice a week for 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours a day or time. So we're pushing that issue. Locally, we had also a discussion on daycare, expanding our daycare services across the city, expanding the zoning requirement or zoning allowable for daycares. Right now, it's not very, there's D6 has very few areas that are actually allows daycare centers. So it's going to pretty much encompass the whole city, the increase in zoning, and also the beds from 8 students to 16 students for a daycare. And I'm not sure on the larger side of the house, but that was briefed this past Tuesday. We had some questions, and we'll probably hear some more about that one. Yeah, these are in private homes. Yeah, it all depends on us. And they have to have 35 square feet per student or per kid, whatever kid. So, but outside of their personal house, and they have to live in one of them, but they could actually have a second home, and that could be a full-time daycare. These are all part of the ordinance that's being looked at. We had a briefing on it, and we'll probably maybe see it again before it goes for public comment. Landscaping bill also came up. Concerns on the landscaping bill. There's a few things we did a lot of on the landscaping bill for parking areas, parking lots, and making sure that the perimeter had 8 feet of grass or greenscape around the perimeter of it. Interiors, we changed the verbiage on that to clear it up to make it easier to read, about increasing the green space, so it's not just a full blacktop, but there is green strips in the parking area. It also talked about park strips and your landscape portion of your lawn. The concerns we have right now, and we had discussion of it was in the enforcement side of the house. It's not going to be retroactive. So if it was allowed in the previous ordinance, and it's not allowed now, you can be grandfathered in there. But if it was prohibited in the previous one and it's still currently be prohibited, there's some concerns about AstroTurf and other things, and gravels and park strips. So we're having a discussion on how we manage that and navigate that, because there's a lot of people that quickly went out and zero-scaped their lawn with a bunch of gravel and AstroTurf, not really reading the rules, and it wasn't allowed at that point. So it's a thing we have to navigate. It's 20% can be actually rock mulch in the landscaped area. A tree count says whatever when you plant a tree, whatever shade that is, that part is considered greenery. But if it's already in place tree, that could be up to 100% on a lawn, but only up to 30% in the park strip. A lot of nuances here. We tried really hard to clean it up from the old one, but also the drought and the last 2 years of, hey, we need to do something strong. People went overboard and really didn't read the ordinance, and so we have to navigate through that. Laird Heights, great job by Becky Woods. Wonderful job. I think that was one wonderful job there. Daycare talked about landscaping. The big thing on the University of Utah, we had a good baseball stadium. We had a good discussion there. We had some comments there. We had Mary and Glee spoke as thank you for your patience of staying around that night. We left about 10. We finished up at 10 o'clock night. I understand. Oh yeah. Well, I thought you would have backed out earlier, but thank you for staying around. So I'll
I know as people who went to the open house. We who went there. I can't say I walked away with really understanding, and I stated this at the meeting the other night. We public need to see elevation type. We need to, we need to see plans with elevation, and now there's a whole other proposed plan of getting 1.2 acres of land. There's a big berm that comes down towards the stadium. There's the basin collecting water. Is there any potential in the wall that's been talked about in the media, the green wall, or whatever, the Boston wall? Is there any way to keep the park, baseball park, within their original boundary and use netting instead of some humongous?
I'll get,
Dan, can you kind of repeat the question? Because
So-
the people, yeah, oh, that's okay.
yeah, so the question from Mary was really about the design and the plan of the stadium. And then also about the wall, the 35-foot wall, and how it impacts that area. And then can you put up a wall or netting vice extend it to the 1.2, little under 1.2 acres of land? And so I haven't seen the designs, because I think that's what the university hasn't done any designs, because to do two different versions costs them a lot of money. So they want to just do one version. So that's part of that side house. As far as putting a netting is concerned, the reason why they put a wall is so the ball would bounce off that wall and still be in play. A netting would not be that way. That's why the green wall in Fenway, you got to go over that wall, right? And there, I don't know the NCAA standards, Jim. I don't know that part. So a couple of questions. Jan threw out a couple of questions. I sent it back to the administration. One of the questions was, and a good question is also about the money staying with this park. And we addressed that again, and we're making sure that the legal side of the house says that the contract says the money will stay there. And we had some conversations about whether all the money's the U money, or whether it could be the U money going to something else and something else going to the U. So we're saying, hey, we want to have this 4.95 here. As far as the lease, we asked the question and we put that forward to that now. It's a long-term lease, and a lot of times when you do a long-term lease with a nonprofit, it's $1 a year. It's kind of like a basic. At this point, we said, hey, we want to look into something a higher value for the lease. What could we get for a higher value, and what would be a realistic value? Something that my thought was, what's our annual maintenance cost of Sunnyside? I have no idea. So the question is, there has been maintenance done there, because I feel it's been closed for a couple of years. So that question is out there. There are other questions that need to be answered, and I've asked those questions. So. Yeah, and I think they were trying to do that at the open house. You know, I was just having conversations with them, and I was outside of that arena because I was just having the conversations. I didn't really look at that. Boundary, and have to worry about parking because we solved parking. Well,
The-
now
the
they came
parking-
back and they said 90 feet wide, and they wanted to take cross field parking.
No, they weren't taking the additional. No, now realize there is no plan for Sunnyside Park. That the cost came out from a concept, and the concept was parking for the pickleball courts, and then a couple extra multi-use fields, a track, a trail around it, and something else.
But yeah, that's all. Yes.
That was.
That was the use.
So that was a used rendering. That was a used rendering, but we used that rendering to come up with a $4.2 million. They put that rendering down there. They said, we're going to put this many parking spots, which I don't agree with because it's green space, and then 3 pickleball courts
these fields, pickleball courts would have lights and some other things, right? And they came up with a little over, I think, $3.2 million. The city's estimate was $4.2 million. That's why we got 4.2. The university said, hey, we can do it cheaper. We're like, well, I don't think so. We want 4.2. So that's where the 4.2 came up. And then we add the 750 from the GEO bond. The 750 from the GEO bond, even if we vote no and they put the wall up, the park gets $750,000. And that's what you get to use to spruce up Sunnyside Park. If we say yes, the park would get 4.95. And how we want to see that, that's up in the air, because
That's gonna trigger a lot of.
That- that's going to trigger a lot of questions, and hey, what do we want to do? What do we want? But here's your budget, right? You got $1,000 to go on vacation. You can either, stay here, or you can only go anywhere, but you only got $1,000. Here we got 4.95 million. That's your budget. You can't ask for the Taj Mahal, because I've asked since that time frame. I've had a number of people say, hey, I want all sorts of stuff. I'm like, well, that's. But the university was never going to sell that property. Well, I've never been able to confirm that from anybody else, because no one says they've been doing it. So, yeah. And the city probably would have not had 5.2 million there. Yeah. So that's where we are on that in the park right now. Sorry. No. I don't think it's 100 yards. 100 yards or 120 yards. Yeah, but you don't get but there would be no change to the park. So 750 wouldn't get you much. Oh, you can type those up
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
and send them to us.
Because I wanted to share them on the silence for 90% of the people. Tragedy that's taking place. I think I did have time to finish. Public trust between the city. We don't want the university's 4.2 billion, and even their own words say, and the cities, any park improvements are quoted as possibilities. There's nothing tangible, and it's the University of Utah that has those designs with pickleball and other things. Well, who's controlling the park? Is it going to be just their idea for the future campus? And last, and I expanded on it. But finally, we just want our entire park and open space. Use the practice field and.
So thank you, Dan.
Yeah, so please type, right.
Get out of here.
Please type those up, or you can screenshot those so those go in the record, because your public comment was cut off. And then
Thank
So, the engagement with the community takes place to what they're back to. Back to, just like we're doing Don Park. So Don Park, you gotta, Don Park, you gotta get a consultant to design that. Next.
Just be kind, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'll be quick. It's okay. How much time do you need for bylaws?
Just 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll be quick. Yeah, no worries. Hi, everyone. Hannah Barton from the mayor's office. For those of you who don't know, the mayor had her State of the City address last week, so I'm just gonna go over a couple of highlights. If you haven't had the chance to see it, it's on the city's YouTube channel, which is SLC TV. There's also a full transcript of it, I think, in the Trib and the Desert News as well, if you want to read it. It's a great chance to talk about goals that have been accomplished and then future goals for the next year, and of course, the mayor's next 4 years in office. And if any of you want to dive a little bit more into the details, there's a great website that our office made. It's slcmayorplan.com. Where you can see all of the years past plans and kind of the report card that we get on accomplishing those plans and goals, and then the plan for 2024. So great chance to dive into the details there. But I'll just do a couple of highlights from the State of the City address. The mayor's big priority is supporting families in Salt Lake City for more affordable housing development and creating a loan program to incentivize more childcare in the city, which is great. Of course, saving water and focusing on air quality. A full audit of all city facilities has been done as far as how much water we are using as a city. And now in 2024, we'll be working with city departments to execute on the recommendations in that report to make sure that we are saving as much water as possible and filling some of those gaps and switching out equipment that needs to be switched out to make sure that we're being responsible with our water usage. Additionally, there's the exciting program this year of switching out your lawn care equipment, which is a big contributor to our air quality. I talked about this at Sugar House Community Council last night, and someone said that couldn't possibly make that big of a difference, but it really does. Using your mower for an hour is about the same as driving a car 100 miles, which is crazy. So that is a great opportunity for residents. I think there's going to be more to come on that in the spring, but it's a $400 rebate to residents who turn in their gas mower and use and buy an electric mower, like Lynn, which is great. Yeah, which is great. So, and that can be, you know, trimmer or leaf blower or whatever as well. Let's see. The mayor also is really excited for the green loop. I know I talked about that a lot last year, but a great way to make our downtown more green and more walkable and a way to enjoy that space. Along with Main Street Promenade, the mayor talked about a plan from the 60s to make Main Street more pedestrian friendly, walkable, a community gathering space. And so that's something that the mayor's really excited about. There was a huge amount of community engagement on that last year, and a lot of the feedback aligned with that plan to maybe have less car usage on Main Street and more places to walk and spend time, listen to music, eat food, drink with family and friends. Let's see. Additionally, there was a great land acknowledgement at the State of the City that I really loved. So really recommend watching the whole thing and listening to it. But if anyone has any questions on that, let me know. Our community outreach team in the mayor's office is continuing to do community office hours this year, which is again, a chance for community members to come and talk with us one-on-one, meet people where they are, hopefully meet people who maybe don't attend Yellcrest Community Council and can start attending Yellcrest Community Council, which would be great. I will be at Logos Coffee Bar on Thursday, February 22nd from 10 a.m. to noon. And that's just inside Emigration Cafe on the corner of 13th and 17th East there. And we will, sorry, 10 a.m. to noon. Sorry, I read that really fast.
No, the north side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes. Sea salt. Oh, really? Wait, which bakery was it?
One that, Research Park.
Oh, yeah, Corner Bakery. Yeah, I was there. I do remember it was a super busy day and I had my big banner with me and I felt a little weird setting up a huge banner in the middle of a very busy restaurant. So it could have been a visibility issue and that's my fault. But I do have like a little tabletop sign that I try to bring with me so folks know I'm from the mayor's office. If it's in a place that is appropriate, I have like a big pop-up banner that I bring that really catches the eye. So. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully there will be plenty of opportunities this year. We are changing it up a little bit and doing it every other month. And using the month prior really to try and get the word out. I've been, flyering the nearby neighborhood and having the business owners keep up the flyer for a few weeks prior, just to get more people to attend. Not everyone wants to talk to a mayor's office employee when they're out getting their coffee or getting their groceries, but we try. So, does anyone have any questions for me?
Well,
Great.
we'd like
Oh.
the mayor to help us a little bit more on the situation we've got with the university and baseball. Felt like part of us, the community, and with the money.
Sure. I know the mayor's been really invested in those conversations that she's been having with the community for months and went to the university and asked them first if they were interested in selling the land to look at a senior center option, and then asking them to look for other parcels that they own to place their baseball facility elsewhere. The university was, there no dice on both of those requests. And again, now we're at the point where we're analyzing the public benefit, and the mayor's supportive of that process just to see what level of public benefit there is. And of course, encourages all of you to engage in that process, go to the public hearing. And oh, wow, I didn't realize that. Yeah, I accept that feedback and I'll happily pass that on to the mayor. Because I understand the importance of that master plan for this community.
Well, third of it was a city. Wasn't any city.
You had a question or comment?
I'll go over to the student housing, the next phase. All the Social Security. Just a couple of snapshots.
Okay.
That pile of dirt on the far north end and what they're doing, grading all the dirt that's been brought in, looks like they're just creating engineered fill. That you for, small, so they can raise the grade. Limits with the building. Tweaking what was it?
Yeah, they did that same thing for the phase that promised it.
So the whole thing's scary because of the approachment and just.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beyond distrust. In case we're not sure, I mean, we. And people can. There's not a thing.
And we have friends who. And they go get into the.
The problem.
So, I can already guarantee you, it's not big YNC.
I know.
And I'm gonna tell you why, but I have my kids all play NCAA sports, in all facilities not be used by the public.
Yeah.
That's why behind, there you go.
I don't.
There are signs that say NCAA on the front. I can already tell you.
City, to the mayor, is to say, this thing be able to buy a hall, it's gonna be able to be rented by.
So there is a difference of the state, so if you put students in there and you have a stage there and so on, because it's not on the field, the field just can't use. it. The facility itself can, you put meeting rooms for the stadium, that can be used by the public.
But there's
Playing
many-
it, but not by then what public means.
Anything, but not clarified, because if they keep it muddy. Then they.
Yeah, I agree. If it was taking pictures of Ball Hill, I didn't, you know, this being completed part of the student housing project and those 2.5 acres of blacktop for parking. I've seen this point for landscaping one tree. There's not a lot.
The main public use trade-offs that I've heard of, at least in my understanding, and I haven't been in all of the conversations, are the bathrooms and the concession stand. But I don't know the NCAA rules about the field.
Yeah, we have plans that kind of software, they wouldn't overlay them, they wouldn't, then they wouldn't. Wouldn't be thinking. You can't use. I don't know the rules there because the high school, like the campuses, like. And then. But they also write that the schools have. That's NCAA, but they, for a lot more. So the stadium said they. Have to. For the practice.
All that stuff about it. Yeah, Major League Baseball, lots of baseball. Till hockey starts hitting us.
So the red house. The indoor field facility. Teams could use those. County. Still.
Are you finished or?
You can't.
Yes, unless I have-
Football.
Okay,
thank you.
Go over there and just look at the surroundings. Don't look at the soccer field, and softball field, they're very close.
Everyone, we've got one more thing, and we're going to try to finish on time. Which would be probably a miracle for us, but, so we are gonna vote on our new bylaws. And, we've got, Eric Dyer, and we've got Eric Pavlis, and we've got Stuart Bevan, and we've got Marguerite Henderson. So we've got, would you raise your hands for those who aren't aware of our illustrious board? They are all here, and we sat down in December and went through word by word, didn't we? And we devoted that whole session. Let me just give you the highlights. If I miss something, will someone step up and tell me? There's some terminology tweaks. They're kind of just word preferences. You know, you can say things tomato or tomato, but you know, we didn't make a lot of changes in terms of what we stand for, our purpose, our mission statement. But I think the significant things were the terms. The terms are now elected for 2 years. That's new. And we feel that allows stability and it allows just getting up to speed. As someone who has sat in this seat, I can just testify that it takes a long time to get and understand the inner workings of city government and to work with our colleagues with the other community councils. And, and there are no term limits. And I would say to anyone who might be concerned about that, and I certainly invite you to comment, there are elections. This is not an automatic thing. Someone still has to come before, you know, our residents and ask for more time, additional 2-year term if that's what they want. And the public still gets to decide that. They don't decide for us. So elections are very important and, you know, we wanted to create that process. We are going to move our elections to August. That is now going to be the new date and they're going to start taking over in September. So that's our cycle. It will be September to August to August or September to September, however you want to look at that. Thursdays at 6:30 are going to be our second Thursday at 6:30 will be our meeting date. It helps us not conflict with other city council and planning and many other boards. And there's a few little tweaks and word messages about what is the portfolio for the secretary treasurer. What is the total capacity of the council? And I think we said up to 11. Anyway, we've got the standard board, which is what we hope for. A chair, 2 vice chairs, a secretary treasurer, and then we have additional at large. And I think the total amount of all of that combined, yeah. So it's, does anybody have any comments that you would like to make?
I remember reading in,
Any other comments? Would someone like to make a motion?
yeah, I knew that we vote for it.
Okay, there's a motion that we move, that we go ahead and accept it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Anybody opposed? It was unanimous. Jim, are you voting for the bylaws or? Okay. Okay, and it looks like we've got some people online who voted. Thank you very much. You raised your hand, John. If you want to raise your hand, or do you have a question? RR, I don't know who RR is. You want to unmute? I think you can unmute. But if you just, if you're in favor, that's all we need to
I
know.
think he's got it in. You know.
Okay. Is that a question? I think, is that a question or a vote? Well, they can go ahead. Oh, he's up. Okay. Okay, we're finished. Thank you very much. And we can help put the chairs away and we'll see you in March.